Welcome back to Primary Source of China Investment. This week we're on show V6, and we're talking a little bit about trade and a little bit about the third plenum that's coming up. So let's start with trade. It's just math. You export more than you import, and you have a trade surplus. China had a record trade surplus in June, and we've been talking about this for months. The pace of China's exports just won't quit. Unfortunately, for the rest of the world, China's consumers continue to put their hands in their pockets when it comes to foreign brands. You can see a $99 billion trade surplus in June, massive number. Exports grew by 8.6% year on year to $308 billion over the first half of 2024. The value of imports slid 2.3% in June from a year earlier to about $209 billion. So $308 billion in exports minus $209 billion in imports gets you to $99 billion trade surplus. It was all over too. Auto exports grew 18.9% in terms of value for the first half of 2024 and by 25.3% in terms of volume amid lower exports. Household electronics sales climbed 14.8% in value terms, but showed even faster volume growth of 24.9. So more products, less price. That goes to the FX issue. Semiconductor exports grew 21.6% year on year in terms of value and by 9.5% in terms of volume. So strong semiconductor export growth shows that China's self-sufficiency push in tech as a pivot towards high-tech manufacturing is starting to pay some dividends, which brings us to the third plenum. But before we get to that, Peng Guo, any comments on trade here?
Yes, I think according to the United Nations statistics, the major engines came from three countries: China 9%, India 7%, and United States 3%. The Europe the export didn't grow, and African export was down 5%. So in the 2024, it's really the emerging market. The trade between those emerging markets get growth almost 2%, and for the developer market, they are just flat. They increase a little bit around 1%. So in those areas, we can see overall the trade is getting better. For the green energy, high tech, and AI related area, growth is much better. So that is pretty consistent with what we said in the equity market.
Yeah, the trade continues to evolve, right? We've been saying this for many months. Global trade continues to increase. It's generally at a low rate, but it continues to increase. So the reason I bring up the third plenum is it's going to be on everybody's radar starting on Monday. And there's really two phrases to look out for when the plenum starts. And the first is new quality productive force. There's no good translation, but it is straight out of a Marxist playbook. And what it really means is the Chinese economy needs to transition to become a leader in innovation and new technology. This has been a talking point for a long time now, but the introduction of this term marks a sea change in the party's leadership and economic governance. Until recently, Beijing's economic and industrial policy was largely based on accelerating progress to catch up with existing technology and achieve self-reliance. From now on, the ultimate goal is to make China a champion of innovation through generating disruptive technologies and scaling into high-end manufacturing. If they can do that, they can set market prices, right? So is this achievable? Well, yeah. Will it happen? There is a high degree of difficulty. Let's just look at EVs for a quick second. The big bet on EVs looks like it might pay off, but it also looks like it might collapse under its own output. If Chinese EVs weren't cheaper, would they attract all of this attention? Maybe the bigger question is there a premium Chinese brand that foreigners are willing to pay for? And maybe none of that matters, Peng Guo, right? If China can supply its own market, then that's a big enough market generally, even if it supplies a little bit to foreign markets. What's your thought?
The goal, initial goal, definitely supply the internal market. So it's a big country. Any movement needed the energy. So if it just burn the coal or crude oil, that will be disaster for the entire the earth. So that's China have the strong motivation to invest in the clean energy in all area, and also for the environment, that is get a huge improvement. So definitely this is the right path.
Hmm.
Export to outside is like the natural ways to help the entire the world save the money and protect the environment. Like all the existing products need some kind of energy to push on could be reduced by the new clean energy. So that's offered a huge opportunity in those areas.
Yeah,
I
it
think,
used to be the oil was the leading indicator for
yeah.
economic productivity.
That's true. So that's definitely, especially for like the developing country, so they don't have the mature infrastructure as well as energy system. So they just can skip the oil age
Yeah.
and jump to the electricity age.
The second and related new vocabulary to look for in the upcoming plenum is called new national system. And this has to do with the distribution of natural resources, um, allocating capital to sectors with strategic significance. So these two items are related, this new national system and also the new quality productive force. They are linked together. The Beijing is going to allocate resources to sectors and industries that will support homegrown technology and breakthroughs. The term sets a clear distinction between the current party's leadership economic governance model and more explicitly market-oriented consensus of the reform and opening areas of the last 45 years. Not to bring the dual circulation up, but you hinted at it just a few minutes ago, Peng Guo. If China's domestic firms can supply everything the Chinese customer needs, not necessarily wants, and perhaps some of what foreign consumers want, Beijing might just stick the landing when we're talking about, is this going to be difficult? Can they execute? Standing in the way of all that are tariffs, WTO complaints, and just plain old consumer preference. So the die is not cast, or whatever metaphor you might use. Definitely there is a strategic plan that's going to be in place, and we're going to hear a lot more about it in the third plenum.
Yeah, we already see like the that's a lot of the trade related war is really war driven by the geographic political force. But I think but the whole world in reality is in the new age to reshape the trade structure. So that means they have more trade routine, not just the traditional one, different country, different government, and also there are many new product and the new supply chain. So all of this actually is really offer a huge opportunity in the world. Every country try to get the good positions in the next 50 years. So they really need to think about it and allocate the resource in the right place.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
don't
chip war is definitely a good example. Someone started chip war for
chip
almost
war. Yeah, the chip war.
yeah,
Yeah,
8 years, and right now and push force the China improve and upgrade the entire semiconductor industry. And right now it's get failed. So a very clear thing is nobody take any responsibility for the fail of the chip war. So if you win, that's fine. But you failed, nobody take responsibility. That really means that someone can start any trade war anytime they want it without taking any responsibility. And so that could be bring the disaster to the local economy.
yeah. When you refer to it as a war, that implies that somebody will win, somebody will lose, and I don't look to our politicians to solve these problems. I look to them to create these problems, and you know the
Yeah,
the
actually, the failure of the war cost, I think, 200 billion loss for the U.S. technology area. So those will probably deliver like the training dollars related job opportunity and upstream and downstream opportunities. But nobody take any responsibility or get
Yeah, I
blamed.
mean, the reality though is we're sitting here with 4% unemployment in the US. We're sitting here with the stock market at an all-time high. So it's really hard to argue that we had some opportunity cost loss. Well, with that, we're going to leave it with show V6. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.